Hello, and welcome to another episode of Decentral Lounge, brought to you by GlobalStake, your institutional, fully decentralized bare metal staking service provider. Today, we're excited to have a wonderful guest on the show, Rushi Manche. Welcome to today's episode of our podcast. We're thrilled to have you here with us. Rushi is the co-founder of Movement Labs, a cutting-edge company in the blockchain space dedicated revolutionizing decentralized networks through its innovative Move-based blockchains. Movement Labs, under Rushi's leadership, has notably raised $3.4 million in a pre-seed funding, a testament to the potential and impact of the work in the Web3 arena. Their work also focuses on enhancing security, performance, and user experience in building decentralized systems. Rushi is a visionary in the blockchain community and is here to share his insights on the future of decentralized technology and the role of Movement Labs in shaping this dynamic landscape. Thank you so much, Rushi, for being here. We really appreciate you taking the time. And for today, we're just going to start off by, if you want to tell the audience a little bit about what interests you in the blockchain and the crypto Web3 space, and how did you get to this point?
Yeah, I think my background's always been engineering. I was always interested in distributed systems, smart contract languages. I started coding when I was 14, and just tinkering around with software at a very young age. Stumbled across blockchain when I was just experimenting with different APIs and wanted to I bought Bitcoin when I was really early on. And I was like, how can I do different smart contracting? Got me into Ethereum, started tinkering around with Solidity, and then realized I hated Solidity. So then I got into Cosmos ecosystem. Loved Cosmosism and just generally how the Rust-based language seemed more intuitive. August of 2023, I want to say, or 2022, I kind of stumbled across Aptos. I think it was 2023, yeah. It's 2022, August of 2022, stumbled across Aptos, and was like the move language revolutionary. Facebook, the biggest social consumer app in the world, looked at blockchains and was like, the EVM is broken, SVM is good, but not phenomenal. I want to build the best programming language. So that started the Move thesis, and then split up to Aptos and Sui, which I'm sure we'll get into later. But essentially, I was contributing to the first DEX in the ecosystem. Cooper, my co-founder, was contributing to Sate, the first yield dagger in the ecosystem. So we're really from the Move community, we're some of the earliest builders in space. So yeah, I've always been around Move, and now wanted to bring Move to other ecosystems, which spawned the Movement thesis.
What is it about Move that separates it from these other engines, these consensus that you talked about, EVM, you talked about SVM? What is it about Move that really attracted you and made you want to work with this particular language?
Yeah, so there's two main things: is performance and security. Performance side is similar to the parallelization thesis that's been pretty hot recently. Sana VM, the parallelized EVM. These are groups and technologies that address the noisy fee markets that we've seen in the EVM. For example, on any layer 2, when the usage is high, the fees pretty much skyrocket, and a lot of time the chain goes down. So inscriptions were the best use case and case study of this, where no chain was able to go above 100, 200 TPS, especially for layer 2s. And then even the EVMs had high gas fees above $100 per transaction because of a single threaded. So single threaded VMs are where you have to wait for each transaction to finish. So if you have 100 transactions, you do A to B, B to C, C to D. So it's like a linear process. Whereas parallelization, you can execute transactions asynchronously. So you don't need to wait for a transaction to finish before you execute transactions, which enables high throughput. Specifically, block STM is the philosophy that was integrated by Aptos early on, which is kind of the best parallelization mechanism on the market. Monad is kind of similar scheme than learn from the DM project. The second thing is security, which kind of differentiates itself from any other VM. Every year there's $4 billion lost in smart contract hacks. Move was built with security at the forefront of design. It's built in bytecode verifiers, interpreters. Basically, when you execute a smart contract, it checks for resource, type, and memory safety. So, for example, registry bugs are a huge issue in Solidity. Every year there's again, I touched on the 4 billion, but also it's every week there's a new attack. Because you have formal verification baked into the VM, any smart contract that's executed is essentially audited in real time. So we block around 90% of all attack vectors we're seeing today in crypto. So Move is the fastest and most secure virtual machine on the market today.
That's certainly very interesting. One of the things I noticed too is just reading through the Movement documents is how all the information is really stored in the individual users' wallets. It's not about reading the smart contract or anything else. And I'm sure that's part of the security that attracted you to it. So tell us a little bit more about Movement Labs. How did this come to be and sort of the grand ambition or vision that you have? Because it's quite unique. It's not just similar. It's not just, you mentioned Aptos, you mentioned SUI, but there's something really unique in terms of the proposition that Movement Labs is putting forward. Can you kind of delve into that a little bit?
I think it's very in line with the modularity thesis, the ability to bring a novel virtual machine and bring it to Ethereum where it can leverage alternative DA layers. So 2023 was the year of DA. We saw Celestia, EigenDA, Avail really rise to the forefront of development. And the VM level, that's kind of what we're also seeing, where this year we're really focused on next-gen virtual machines, talk about Solana VMs, the Move VMs, the like ZK Wasms of the world. So our thesis is to democratize access to the Move virtual machine in that we can bring the Move VM to Ethereum. So when that happens, we can actually see adoption to it because now you have a large liquidity base. So that's where M2 comes in, the first Move EVM rollup on Ethereum. It's a fully EVM compatible Move virtual machine, lives on top of Ethereum for settlement, powered by Celestia for DA. So transaction fees are extremely cheap, and we can attract liquidity to the Move virtual machine.
I'm not gonna lie, I kind of laughed a little bit when you said move to EVM because the meme that was in the Discord, like taking the old lady across the street, popped into my head. So that's the one thing I really love and appreciate about Move and Movement Labs in particular. The community is incredibly vibrant. It's unlike anything else I've really seen. You go into a lot of other protocols because as the director of protocol relations, I have to interface a lot of teams and a lot of communities. And that's the one thing I think that really makes Movement very different is it's very much seems like a grassroots kind of thing and really organic, like the people that you're drawing to it. What do you think is going to happen? Is the community going to continue? Like, and this is another, I think, too, when your spaces that you host on X draw a really wide, varied crowd into them. So how do you use this community to help spread the word about Movement Labs and what you guys are trying to build? It seems like everybody's really eager to share this with others.
Yeah, I think what we really do is try to be friends with everyone, and that modularity is something that enables partnerships in a way that isn't present in other ecosystems. For example, we can partner with whatever oracles we want. There's multiple bridges. We can partner with different data layers, different sequencers, different role providers. It's really like a one size fits all in that if you're a builder, if you're an infrastructure provider, if you're building an app, we can literally partner with you in any shape or form. So when we're doing these spaces and doing our business development, we're really thinking about how can we optimize our ecosystem to a point where customization happens natively. So if I'm looking to launch my own DEX, I can choose whether I'm deploying Aptos Move, SUI Move, or EVM. I can choose what bridging provider. I can choose what Oracle provider. I have customization to an end that's not really possible in other systems. Specifically, because we are extremely modular, we can launch our own, like if I'm an app developer, I can launch my own Move rollup and customize it at will. So what we're seeing is actually a boom in gaming rollups, deploying it in the Move stack, where anyone can leverage whatever DA layer they want, whatever settlement layer they want, whatever like role framework they want, and just use Move virtual machine and connect to our sequencer network. So you can have your own independent blockchain, your own independent environment, and still be part of the Movement community. So we really welcome everyone with open arms, whether you're from Avalanche, from Ethereum, from Cosmos, from Polkadot, really support everyone.
Yeah, that's evident in all the partnership announcements that you guys continue to make. It seems like there's not a part of the blockchain world that Movement Labs doesn't touch at this point. It's my constant replying like, oh my gosh, this is amazing, all the things that you're able to do. Now you talk about sort of the ability. So can builders come in with this kind of customizability to do they have templates, for instance, where they can just launch these dApps or rollups very quickly?
Yep. So on the apps, we have like code templates. So if you want to write like a withdraw smart contract, or like a transfer smart contract, these are completely open source Move contracts that you can just Google. And then for the rollup side, we're actually partnering with some RASes, which we're announcing shortly. So you can use a rollup as a service provider, do a one-click rollup deployment, and have your own Move chain up live with no like other hassles. So our job is to make the Move language as accessible as possible, which is something that allows everyone to leverage the Move language.
One of the things that I learned too from another previous interview that you had done is that, and I had no idea that the Aptos and SUI, like I guess they're both move language, the consensus client is somehow different, but this is one of the hurdles that you've overcome is you have allowed these two to kind of talk to each other through movement as sort of, I guess, the substrate, if you will, the base layer.
Perfect. Yeah. So it's actually funny because Aptos move, which is more aligned to the DM move, is completely different than SUI move. It's like in Web 2 where it's like React is different than Vue. It's completely different frameworks. The syntax doesn't match. So what we build essentially is an RPC translation layer. So SUI move can compile down to the move virtual machine. So you can support both Aptos and SUI move, which is a huge fragmentation issue that was seen predominantly in Web 2 as well as Web 3.
Wow, amazing. I mean, obviously this is about to launch and we're getting much closer to movement becoming a reality that everybody's going to be interacting with and using the chain. Where do you see all this going? Like, obviously, one of the things here at GlobalStake, I mean, our co-founders are very bullish on just interoperability in general, right? This notion that we know that blockchains are not going to continue to be these isolated ecosystems, that everything is going to be connected in some way. And it seems like you and the team have gone out of your way to kind of get ahead of this trend by building these partnerships. I mean, where do you see Movement Labs in 2, 3, 5 years from now?
I think we become the de facto network for a specific smart contract language. I think the Move is the future. It was built by the biggest social consumer app in the world. So if we're ever going to have like the million users on chain, it's definitely not going to be the EVM because the EVM can't do more than like 500 transactions per second in its current form. So we really believe in the Move thesis. We believe in smart contract security. We believe in democratization. And now we're bringing the Move virtual machine to broader and other networks, as well as supporting multiple variants of the Move language. So really our cutting edge advantage is, yes, we combine both Aptos and SUI, but also we're very community driven. We're going to be a place where builders can come and feel welcomed, not feel shut out by ecosystems that don't really care about their builders. We're always going to strive to be community first and try to be the biggest network on the market.
Can we take a step back from a very high level perspective? Some of the people that watch this podcast are fresh into the Web3 space. A lot of these names that are being thrown around might be a little confusing to them. So can you kind of explain to us how this is different? I understand that it's a language and each blockchain has different languages, but can you explain from a high level perspective how this is going to be able to support multiple different chains so that the person that's listening isn't thinking that Movement is a brand new cryptocurrency or a brand new roll up? Like, how does this translate into future adoption?
Yeah, so it's actually the Move VM is a virtual machine, which means it's an execution environment. So you can think of it like an operating system on your Mac. Where it allows users and developers to write code that interfaces with the underlying hardware, or in blockchain mechanisms, it's a consensus mechanism. So settlement is usually where the validators receive the transactions and reach consensus. The layer above that is execution layer. So that's really where we focus on, experimenting the execution layer level, where you have different programming languages, you have different virtual machine types, you have different parallelization processes. So we're focusing on the Move virtual machine, which was developed obviously by the Facebook group. And our method of adoption is by bringing it to networks like Ethereum through layer 2, where you can leverage underlying network for liquidity, but still modify the execution layer for different smart contracts and have adoption for the Move language.
Perfect. Yeah. Thank you for providing that context. That way, for people that are listening, they can now kind of put connect the dots per se, that the builders that are coming in are utilizing this language to build on top of multiple different cryptocurrencies and blockchains. Thank you. I really appreciate that.
No worries, man.
Yeah, and I think too, the other thing that anybody who listens to this or watches it is going to recognize the name Facebook, right? Like, this is the other piece too, that this was something that started as the DM project with Facebook, and then it kind of split out with Aptos and SUI taking kind of two halves of the teams, if you will. But it's just really exciting to see that you've taken this ball and literally ran with it, and just where you're taking Movement Labs and everything else, Rushi. Any kind of closing thoughts, big ideas that you want to share with the audience?
I think don't be afraid to try. When we started building, it was like post FTX, the deep bear market. So like anyone who's building the time can realize like the sentiment towards experimentation was very difficult. It was always like build an EVM layer 2 or like I'm not going to care about you. And then we took that personally. We're like, we are not going to let up. We're going to still stick to the move thesis. Back then, everyone basically bailed the move thesis. People were like, the move thesis won't work. After since we are failures, it's just dead chains. But we doubled down, kept building, kept grinding. And now today, everyone's waking up and saying like, wow, movement is doing great work. The move thesis is being validated. But back then, no one was even thinking about it. So A, stick to your guns. B, don't be afraid to go out of the norm because it's usually the people who are contrary. You think of Solana, people wrote off Solana. People were like, Solana's going to zero. And now Solana is doing Solana things. So usually if you're following the crowd, I don't think you're getting anywhere. You have to be contrarian and we willing to defy the norm.
Well, that's a great way to look at it. For the viewers and for the listeners, if you can just share your information for how people can get in touch with you, for instance, whether that be institutions or maybe other builders, where are the best places to reach out to you and find more information about Movement Labs?
Yeah, so our movement Twitter is Movement Labs XYZ. My personal Twitter is at Rushi Manche, and you can email us at rushi@movementlabs.xyz.
All right. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to visit with us, Rushi. Really appreciated you and all these insights, and I look forward to the launch of Movement first, and I'm sure it's coming very soon, and we're all very excited.
Appreciate the time, man. It's an honor.
Thank you so much. Right back at you. Definitely an honor. Thanks, Rushi.
Yeah.